This is total.
Hey, what the hell are we recording?
Yeah, and you're screwing up the intro.
What about my part? It's supposed to be our podcast, right?
Come on, man. I'm trying to be professional about this.
You know damn well there ain't nothing professional about what we're doing here. Welcome to Totally Unprofessional. It's Manuel and Justin, his two best friends shooting the breeze about nothing and about everything. We're separated by 10 years, 2 points of view on every subject from 2 different generations. Listen as we talk sports, events, and anything else that might come up. There's nothing professional about what we're doing here, hence the name, Totally Unprofessional. All right, welcome back. What episode are we on, Justin?
This is 16.
Yeah, I'm not keeping track of these numbers because these numbers mean shit to me. So I'm not keeping track of them. But
they're also numbered on the YouTube channel and on the Podbean.
Yeah, so anytime you look it up, if you're lost, it should be really easy to trace.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be a real issue. We had a lot go on this weekend. We had finals. We had a very interesting U.S. Open. We had an interesting finals, too.
Yeah, it was the closest game of the finals.
Yeah.
And also, as promised, Money in the Bank was also Sunday, and Monday Night Raw was tonight, and we got Gio back.
I was just going to say, will you specify what Money in the Bank means? Because it doesn't mean literally Money in the Bank. It was a WWE pay-per-view, right?
Well, it does if you're the WWE.
Well, it does if you're the WWE, but not everybody's a WWE.
The Money in the Bank.
Some of us get laid.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, man. That's great, huh? You're also old and go to bed and get the senior citizen discount.
I've been practicing that line for 3 days, as I know. So
sounded like it. No, but the Money in the Bank pay-per-view was originally a match, as I explained on Friday, that was created by Chris Jericho. It was a 6-person, 7-person ladder match, and instead of going up for a belt that you would climb up and pull down, they came up with the idea of doing a contract that you get a shot at the world heavyweight title anytime within a year. And it was just started out as a match at WrestleMania. The initial one was WrestleMania 21 and went all the way through WrestleMania 26. And then they decided to branch off and was like, we could do this with its own pay-per-view. And so they made it its own pay-per-view. And that's what was last night, was the Money in the Bank pay-per-view.
So for those of you that are curious, I did ask Justin the other day what happened to all the old school. So if you're old school WWF, and I don't mean the World Wildlife Federation, World Wrestling Federation, I was asking him, they do still have the Survivor Series around.
Yeah, the major 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Apparently they're the
order, like chronological order. It's the Royal Rumble in January, WrestleMania in at the end of March or beginning of April. It's always the last week of March or the first week of April, and then SummerSlam in August and Survivor Series in November.
So those are still
the major 4.
Those are still around for all of you OGs like me that just remember those pay-per-views. I remembered a couple other ones when I stopped watching early 2002, if I remember right. But those are still around, and I'm told Survivor Series has returned to a legit Survivor Series now.
There's always a couple matches on the card that are the traditional Survivor Series,
which is cool because it's what it used to be, and that to me that was what made it interesting. But we'll get more into wrestling here in a little bit.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and start with, if anybody out there listening is a dad, happy late Father's Day. Obviously, that happened while we were not podcasting. That happened yesterday.
And I just want to point out that fuck Facebook, because they didn't put up anything for dads yesterday. On Mother's Day, they had a wish your mother a happy Mother's Day and special emojis and shit, and they didn't do that for the fathers. Now, with all due respect to the mothers, hey, us men, we grind, man. We grind. We get up every morning. We go to work. We bring home the money, you know? I mean, I'm not saying I don't want to downplay what mothers do, but hey, the man deserves more than a pat on the back, okay? I'm a big advocate of March 14th. For those of you who don't know what March 14th is, in the UK, it's National Steak and Blowjob Day. It's an appreciation day, okay? We need something like that on Father's Day. That's all I'm saying. So Facebook, fuck you. Bring it on. Let's go. Come on.
That's why I gave up on Facebook several years ago. They were letting people down already.
So I was disappointed to not see that, but that's a side note. So a lot of sports. I'm going to start with the smallest one. We're just going to do a quick flyover on this.
Yes.
United States won their Copa America match. They beat Ecuador 2-1. Mexico got smoked by Chile 7-0.
Yep.
That was just unreal. Argentina won
Messi doing his thing.
He's just ridiculously good. If you're not a soccer fan, you should watch him at least once just to appreciate the athlete and the precision, the athleticism and the precision that he plays his sport with. I would equate it to watching Jordan in basketball. This guy is the premier soccer player of his generation, and he did some things even at his age. He's doing things still that are ridiculous. But again, Argentina, they defeated Venezuela. You had Colombia win as well. So you're looking at semifinals, Argentina taking on the U.S.
That will be tomorrow.
That'll be tomorrow night. The U.S. is without 3 key players. I know 2 of them, Woods and Jones, will be on. I don't remember the third. And then you will have Chile facing Colombia on the other side of the bracket. Some interesting matchups. So if you're into the soccer and the Copa, hey, there's going to be some good soccer on. Should be competitive. There shouldn't be any blowouts in this one. Maybe a 3-0 by Argentina, but that's it. That Colombia-Chile game should be awesome. You're talking about 2 of the top-ranked teams in the world.
Chile is the defending champion.
Chile is the defending Copa champion, so you could be looking at some potentially good soccer matches there. Getting into the weekend, there was UFC fights. I didn't get a chance to watch them.
I saw the main event and co-main event, as I talked about. Donald Cowboy Cerrone in the co-main event with Patrick Cote. Holy shit. The best outing he's had in a very long time. He dominated Patrick Cote from start to finish. He beat the shit out of his legs with inside and outside leg kicks.
Now, refresh my memory. Wasn't he only like a 115 favorite? A plus 115 or something like that? It was a real small one, wasn't it?
But this was another fight that he fought up again because normally he's a natural 55er, 155. And this time he went up again. So he's fighting well. This is his second fight. And Cote, the issue with Cote was he's stronger. He's a bigger dude. Was he going to be able to grab him? He did not. He kicked the shit out of his legs, and Cote tried to switch his stances, and he just kept kicking the shit out of the other leg. And then every time Cote would start to anticipate the legs, he started swinging with fists and dropping hooks and stuff like that. So it was a good fight for Cowboy. Sunday. If he continues to stay up, it doesn't look like there's any reason for him not to stay up. So hopefully he does. At the end of the fight, in his post-fight interview, he said there's 33 fights the weekend of UFC 200. There's got to be a spot for me, right?
Interesting.
So hopefully there's a spot for him there. The main event, Rory McDonald versus Wonderboy Thompson. And Roy couldn't get it done. He looked a little timid, and then again he got his nose punched quite a bit.
Ouch!
Thompson just looked like he had his number. They try to feel each other out. They try to go back and forth, and Wonderboy, like the guy is just—he's on his game. A 7-fight win streak, and he's essentially in line for the next title shot for the winner of Robbie Lawler, Tyrone Woodley. So hopefully he gets that opportunity. He doesn't get shafted. So. That was a UFC fight, co-main event, main event this weekend. As we roll it into Sunday, we had the U.S. Open.
Okay, short break.
Here's the problem. The U.S. Open is not your typical PGA tournament circuit. It is not your typical tournament setup. These guys, they go out there, the superintendents on that day, that weekend, they play, if I'm saying scale of 1 to 10, you're playing a 7 on a Thursday. You're playing an 8 to 9 on Friday. Saturday and Sunday, you're playing a 10-plus course and as far as difficulty goes. They roll those freaking greens so that they're almost like damn asphalt. You touch a ball and it's going downhill, you're lucky to stop it short of the hole. And you started to see that on Sunday. So Steve Lowry's got a 4-shot lead over Landry and Dustin Johnson going into Sunday. Lowry shoots 10 over on Sunday. Finishes, I think he finished even or 1 over. You know, poor guy. I mean, just totally fell apart. Shot 80 or 81 on Sunday. Landry, the same thing, shot 80. You know, congratulations to Dustin Johnson, who's had some serious heartbreak in the past when it came to majors. You know, finished runner-up last year. He hits last year at Chamber Hill. He hit the 18th green on his second shot. Had a 12-foot putt for eagle to win. Missed it. I mean, those guys are probably 1 out of 4 or 5 for that putt. Missed a 2-foot birdie for a playoff to lose to Jordan Spieth last year. Ooh. Finishes runner-up, makes the par. Okay, so this year, he's kind of just lumbering around first couple holes. Lowry gives up 1, 2, gets 1 back. By the end of the round, I think he took the lead at 11. They're even at 11. He lines up for his putt at 11. This is the controversy of the U.S. Open. Now, it didn't end up being controversy when the tournament was over, but the whole controversy is about how the USGA handled it in tournament. Dustin lines up, puts his markers down, puts his ball down, lines it up, picks up the marker, takes 2 practice putting strokes, lines up behind the ball, and is starting to descend his putter behind the ball. Now, if you're a golfer, you know you don't actually get penalized, or you're not supposed to until you've completely addressed the ball, which means you've stationed your putter behind the ball.
You're ready to swing.
Yeah, you're ready to begin your striking motion, okay? Whether it's with an iron or a putter.
Right.
His ball moves as the putter's descending towards the ground. Not going towards the ball, descending towards the ground. His ball moves. Now, he backs away from it, kind of looks around, looks for the rules official, pulls the rules official over and says, this is what happened. Rules official said, did you do anything to move the ball? And Dustin says, now, he didn't say no. Now, if I'm him, I'm telling him, no, I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I was barely getting ready to address, okay? I've set up to the ball before where whether it was the wind or maybe just the ground was weak in that area and you're walking and it just falls off the tee. You're not at address yet. It's not a penalty, okay? He says, I don't believe I did. That's probably the mistake that Dustin made. He should have just said no because I think he knew. But then again, he knows that the cameras are watching. He knows that fans are watching. He's not real sure, so he says, I don't know. Well, here's the jacked up part. Here's where it really goes south for the USGA, okay? The USGA official says, okay, it's not a penalty. We're going to go ahead and continue. You didn't do anything. Fine, we're going to go on. They play a hole and a half, or actually they finished that hole is what they did. Before his next tee shot, USGA commissioner, I believe it was, came up to him and tells him, we are reviewing the video. Now, mind you, Dustin's in the middle of chasing the U.S. Open title. At this point, he's 1 shot up on Lowry. Okay? And they just go and tell Dustin, all right, you could potentially have a penalty stroke hanging over on you. We're not going to review it till after the tournament. The bastards didn't even want to make a ruling there.
That's horrible.
To me...
Here's my question real quick before we get too far into this, is that if you're the ruling official, how are you not watching the green? Why are you not watching the action?
Well, they were. The problem is that the move was so slight that nobody saw it but Dustin and the TV audience. And the TV audience only sees it because of the way those cameras zoom in.
Okay.
You know, they give you some pretty gnarly angles on that putting. They'll get right behind his putter. You know, with the zooming that they can do, they'll get right over the top of him.
On a
with
quick
the
side note
that
to that, yes, the Copa needs to figure out how to shoot soccer better because when they kick that ball distance-wise, I can't tell you the depth on that ball where it's going to land, and it kind of pisses me off a little bit.
So, you know, they approach him. They tell him before he tees off to the next shot, we're reviewing it. Here's the problem. He's chasing a U.S. Open title. That course itself is tough enough without mental anguish hanging over your head. You know, he's already going through, I don't want to call him crazy, but he's already going through what most golfers go through, which is tension in that situation. Hats off to him. He stayed calm the rest of the way. And even he said, what was I going to be able to do about it? It was in their hands. Hey, hats off to you, Dustin. A year and a half ago, I would have said that would have ripped you apart. You know, the time you took off to get yourself straight and to get your mind under control, it worked. I don't know what you did. I don't know if it's Paulina. I don't know what it is. Whatever you did...
Hey, nice taste to tell works. Ask Tiger. We talked about this before on the show. Come on.
So he keeps calm enough. He goes in. He finishes 5 under. The closest competitors were at 2 under. And he finished strong. And they do end up assessing him a penalty at the end, which I thought was a bunch of BS because, again, he didn't do anything to move the ball. Rory McIlroy, Ricky Fowler, they went to Twitter right away and they were bashing the USGA. For those of you that are curious, PGA Tour does not run this tournament. It is run by the USGA, hence the US Open. So the ruling body on this is the USGA.
The USGA, for those not knowing,
United States Golfing Association, which is the main golfing
governing body
entity in the United States. They control all of the amateur event, the U.S. amateur events, plus the U.S. Open. That's their tournament. That's their baby.
Right.
With a $1.7 million purse, I don't think anybody's going to complain.
Right.
But I'm going to tell you what, they really need to get their shit together because that looked poorly on them. For an entity to handle that the way they did was poor. And then throughout the telecast, the announcers are talking about, well, wait a minute, it's not just Johnson's information to know. It's everybody's because it changes the strategy for everybody. If you're within a shot of Dustin, maybe you change the way you approach the next green. Maybe you change the way you go after the flag or the shot you hit. It affects everybody. Well, come to find out that everybody did know that rules officials, as people were getting to the next tee boxes, they were relaying the information. We have a potential penalty situation with the leader, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so here's the jacked up part. Not only did you screw with Dustin Johnson's head, maybe, potentially, you also screwed with everybody else that's playing. How do we know? And I'm not going to give Lowry this credit. I think the course ate him alive towards the end there. That's just the way it was. He wasn't ready for this moment yet. And he will be. He's good. But how do we know that didn't rip Lowry's mind up and cause the descent that happened after that? Because the guy was playing brilliant for 3 rounds and then to just fall apart. Now, I just said it. The U.S. Open is the toughest course. Doesn't matter where it is. It plays the toughest of every tournament in the country. Or in the world.
Right.
They roll those greens, they grow that rough, they do things to make it purposely difficult. If it doesn't rain on Thursday, we're probably looking at the winner being maybe even 1 under the lowest, potentially 1 to 3 over. So congratulations, USGA, you had a chance to shine and you fucked up. You really fucked this one up. Luckily, I'm thankful that it didn't cost Dustin Johnson because it could have, but you know what? You could be the reason Lowry wasn't able to get it together. I would love to say it was the reason Landry didn't, but Landry was having problems before that. Lowry was playing decent up until the point where you started thinking maybe this is lingering in the back of his head. So I don't know. But like I said, McIlroy said it the best. Amateur hour by the USGA. They handled that the wrong way. Announcers agreed. Faldo agreed. Everybody that was there with a name agreed that they handled that poorly.
That was poor.
That was poorly handled. So, again, congratulations to Dustin Johnson. He's been chasing that for many years. Had a lot of heartbreak in majors, and he was able to overcome it. And, hey, to the victors go the spoils. $1.7 million purse. He's got an exemption now. He would have been on one anyways. I don't want to make it sound like he wasn't going to get the exemption, but he's got his exemption now for 2 years. And he's got that major. He won't be known as the greatest player to never win a major now. I'm sorry, but that falls to Lee Westwood now.
Yep.
But DJ, congratulations. Hopefully he makes a run at the PGA. He was smashing the ball. Really? Yeah, he led the field in driving distance for the week. I mean, just watching him swing.
Let the dog eat, as they say.
Yeah, he let the big dog eat. He was able to get it done, and it was fun to watch. I watched. I was telling Gio and Justin. 4 potential rounds. I believe I watched 3.5 because they had so much coverage trying to play catch up. So it was pretty awesome. Right. It was a real fun weekend, Father's Day weekend for me. Sweet. But so that was your U.S. Open for the weekend. Dustin Johnson, the winner.
And obviously the main part of Sunday night, if you're a major sports fan, the NBA Finals.
LeBron.
Let me first start off by saying congratulations to the Cleveland Cavaliers. They are the NBA champions, whether anybody likes it or not. Like I said, I didn't have a dog in this fight. I picked the Warriors to win the whole thing. And I stand by what I said about LeBron and about the guys that are around him and the things of that nature. Again, like it's one of those things where I'm not going to back down from what I've said. I know what I said, and I have my opinion about it. And at the end of the day, whether I like him or don't like him, it is what it is. I can't change the outcome of that game. And I don't have a dog in that fight. That's not my Celtics.
Yeah.
I do enjoy watching the Warriors. I'm a Cali-born kid. We live in the Central Valley in California. Oakland's only 3 hours away from us. It's one of those things where we do enjoy, watching Steph Curry play and watching the Warriors play the way that they do and switching things up the way that they do, going small. But to me, some of the stuff that came out of Game 7 that was uncharacteristic and absolutely what we thought it was going to be was very interesting watching the game. It was the best game of the series by far. It was the closest game of the series by far, which was good for a Game 7.
Well, it came down to Speed's last shot. I mean, Speeds could have hit that.
Well, not even that. As coaches, as we've talked about, we know that the game doesn't hinge on one particular play
for sure.
Here or there. But what I will say is that if we flash back, let's rewind here to 3 years ago. Okay? Last year, they lose to the Warriors in the finals, and LeBron essentially has to do it on his own.
It's 4-2 last year, yeah.
The year before, He's in Miami.
Yeah.
And they lose to San Antonio. But 3 years ago, they played San Antonio.
Mm-hmm.
And they won.
Yeah.
Why did they win 3 years ago? Either you guys
Because
know
it was
why?
a team effort.
No.
I thought wasn't there a lot of injuries on San Antonio's part that year?
No.
Or was that
The reason why he won the second one was Ray Allen saved his
the
ass
three that saved
from the corner.
That's right.
Okay.
Now, fast forward to last night.
Who hit the three?
Who hits the game-winning three?
Now-
Not LeBron.
Now, we talked last night because we were going back and forth on text messages, and I said Kyrie for MVP. And the first thing you said was not with LeBron leading every statistical category, because at the end of the series, he did lead every statistical category. Points, rebounds, assists, blocks, steals. He led everything. But on the flip side, I'm telling Justin here, okay, did it really matter if you take Kyrie out of Game 5 and Game 6? Are we even at a Game 7? No. I'm sorry. They're going to lose one of those two games, if not both of them, if they decide to play him. So I thought Kyrie should have gotten it. I mean, LeBron is the obvious choice for the MVP. But again, who was the most valuable player of that series? It's Kyrie. Kyrie was the difference between him winning a title and him not winning a title. Now, was LeBron the best player on the court? Yes. Okay. He proved yesterday, and we talked about this earlier, he just did what everybody expected him to do. He took over. The blocks that he had were timely blocks.
Yes.
You know, the dunks that he had were the right dunks to take. You know, I thought he got a little weak and late in the third quarter where he was settling for jump shots, but when push came to shove in the fourth quarter, he was going at the basket and he was going strong. You know, that last pass where he went to the dunk, I thought he was going to stop and shoot it. He didn't. He went strong, tried to dunk, the rim rejected him, and he hit the floor. But again, he's going strong to the basket. Instead of settling, he was able to knock down one of those two free throws.
Yes.
You know, so it's
So
just
here's
him.
my thing. There was no question, in my opinion, no matter how much I disliked the way the guy plays the game, he was the unanimous MVP. 2 41-point games, a triple-double in Game 7. There was no way anybody else was getting that.
Oh yeah,
that trophy.
I agree. There wasn't.
And to me, the argument that Kyrie Irving against Kyrie Irving was how he played in the beginning of the series.
Yeah, definitely.
He came on strong in the middle games, even when they lost. He came on strong and played well all the way from the middle to the end. But the beginning hurt him.
Yes, it did definitely.
And LeBron is LeBron. He averaged that many points right from the jump, and then to go off for 41 back to back and a triple double, it makes a difference.
Yeah.
So that being said, there's no doubt in my mind that he was the MVP. I can admit that as much as I dislike the way the guy plays the game. Now, that being said, the Warriors uncharacteristically turned the ball over
Ridiculous.
way more than
Yeah.
they had in any game.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, to me, you cannot sit there and go, oh, no, like, the Cavaliers really tore them up.
No. It was a little bit, I would say it was a little bit of both. It was the Warriors being uncharacteristic by turning it over, but it was also Cleveland had to make the most of that. Because if we go back to game, I want to say it was 4 in Cleveland that they lost, right? Mm-hmm. Game 4 in Cleveland, Golden State played terrible, and Cleveland was unable to capitalize on it. So it does take a little bit of both of them to do that.
Right.
But Draymond Green's interview, if you watched it, if you saw it, he said, you know what, did Cleveland beat us? Absolutely. You know, I think we had a little bit to do with it, but you can't take away from what they did. They had to finish the game still. So for it to be that close when they play that bad is just ridiculous. I want to know why they're not setting up to run Draymond Green for a three-point shot instead of Curry or Thompson. I know Curry's your best shooter. I know Thompson's your number 2.
Because you have to understand something, the way that those shots are created. Draymond Green does not create his own shot. He's a spot-up shooter. They don't run Draymond Green off of screens. He doesn't catch it on the run and pull up like Clay and Steph. That's not his game.
So you're telling me there was no way they could set him up for a three-point shot?
I'm not saying that there's no way that you could have set him up, but it would have took too much time to get him there. And he's not the type of shooter that you catch on the run. He steps into his shot, or he's already locked in on his shot. He's not on the run creating his own shot like Steph and Clay, where they'll dribble in and out of you real quick and then step back to the side or to like straight back and then pull up with somebody leaning on them. Draymond's the type of guy that he pulls the trigger when you catch him in a weak side window or in a backside cut. Something like that where they're going to the basket and he's standing on the perimeter going, hey, and they kick him the ball on the way out. Livingston was the one in the big play where he cut to the basket and then hit him on the behind the back pass.
Yeah.
Those are the type of plays that he hits his threes on. You don't see him dribble the ball down and then pull up at the 3-point line and just knock it down. That's not his game. Not from the 3-point line.
Do you think there was enough time to set something up for Draymond?
In that situation, the way the momentum was already rolling and the defense that Cleveland had, no. I think
he had another timeout.
I think you use him as the decoy. You set him up as if you're using him, and people go, oh, and then you get him in a touch. They had enough time to get a pass to the shot. You didn't just have to shoot.
Yeah.
So they had enough time where they could have got him the ball if they played it straight and let him catch the ball on the run off of a screen or something like that. And then fake him and then go somewhere else. Or hit him and then it's a back pick on a flare to Steph or to Clay.
Yeah.
And then you get a different look. Curry himself said it in the postgame. I forced a lot of things that were unnecessary instead of taking what they were giving us on defense. I think that showed. That was a big difference in the end on shot selection. That Cleveland chose to go to the basket.
Yeah.
Not counting the Kyrie 3. But it made you respect them going to the basket. So when he stepped back, Curry was just trying to make sure he wasn't attacking.
And to be fair, Curry, you couldn't be in a whole lot better of a defensive position when Kyrie
he
took
wasn't
that
in
shot.
a bad spot at all. There was a hand up. I mean
you're not going to.
You want to bitch about 4 inches closer to his face with the hand? Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to nitpick,
but that was.
But outside of that,
yeah.
I mean, there's not really anything there. Draymond's not that guy. If you're looking for a guy to catch other than those two, it's Andre Iguodala. That's the guy that you can catch off that. But again, he's not that type of player all the time.
Yeah.
So you're kind of rolling the dice with him. Harrison Barnes finally woke up. That was good.
After
but
a 2-game sleep.
But he was 2 for 22 going into that game on his shots in his last 22 shots.
Non-existent. And which some would say was a big reason because he played such a big part in Game 4. In 4, he had a real big part of the reason why they won in Cleveland. And he was a big reason why they were able to win both of them at home. Mm-hmm. So when you're looking back at this, you could say Cleveland won it. You could say Golden State lost it. It really doesn't matter because in the end, Cleveland got their championship. It's fun to watch the fan reaction. That's always the funnest to watch to me, watching some of those videos. I'm surprised they didn't tip over any cars or anything. Would have been pretty awesome, just because it's good for TV. But
I just think that, uncharacteristically, the turnovers and everything else. And here's the other thing. You and I talk about odds all the time and about betting lines. Do you know what the spread was in the game?
It was probably like 10 points or something. No?
It was 4.5. Golden State by 4.5.
Really? Oh, wow. And it ends up being a 3-point game or 4-point game.
Tell me that's not a trap game. 5 points at home.
Yeah. So what's the standard in basketball for a home point?
It depends. Like, the finals are different because it's a game 7. It's 3-3. The moment, it's different game to game. So it just kind of varies. You can't really, with a game like that, it's not an average game. So it's a little different. But overall, like I said, congratulations to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And to you bandwagon motherfuckers, eat a dick, all right? For all you people, and I'm going to say this straight up. Full disclosure, my father sat in his recliner annoying the shit out of me on purpose, clapping like he's a Cavaliers fan since day one. He don't give a shit about the Cavaliers or LeBron James. And he stood there clapping in my face like he was on the floor and there was confetti hitting him in the head.
It's just because everybody knows you don't like LeBron.
Yes,
and I gave you some.
I'm sorry that I'm not a LeBron dick rider like the rest of the country. Congratulations to the city of Cleveland and them for the 52-year drought that ended in a championship. Congratulations. But all you're going to hear about now, if you're not a fan of the Cavaliers or LeBron James, all you're going to hear about is how much these guys want to squeeze and hug his nuts. So, that's all you're going to see on ESPN.
Okay, so Kevin Love, contract year, correct?
Yes.
Contract option.
It's at least an option.
It's an option,
I think it's an option.
Does he come back?
Because they won the title? Yeah.
Okay. LeBron is also...
He had a huge game in Game 7.
Yeah, he did.
That's going to be the difference.
And the talk about Kevin Love, he played a hell of a defensive game.
Yes.
You know?
They asked Steph in the postgame about him playing defense on him, and he was like, I tried, and there was some stuff I couldn't do, and I should have read it differently and take what he was giving me, and that's not what happened.
They weren't expecting Kevin Love to play defense.
No, they weren't.
That was definitely a shock. Okay,
because one of the names that were thrown in the hat on Kevin Love was the Celtics.
Yeah.
So, but
they don't.
He can fucking stay there.
James has got an option this year, correct?
His contract's up. He only signed a 2-year deal.
Okay.
Because the salary cap goes up next year. And Cleveland gets new TV deals this next year.
Oh, so they're going to be able to give him
So
some
they're
money.
going to have some fat money. If they didn't win, I could have seen him walking. Where he'd been like, you know what? Like, either you bring somebody else in or I'm out.
So he's 30, right?
He's 30 or 31.
31. Is he worth the next big contract there?
Yes. He's still the best player on the planet.
So are they
don't get me wrong, Steph's the MVP this year. And back-to-back MVP. No problem. But God-given talent and the guy that can take over a game any given night. It's not Steph. Steph can shoot. But when you live and die by the jump shot, you got to have more to your game. And Steph showed that this year.
Yes, definitely.
But LeBron has been doing it for 10 years.
Yeah.
And, like I said, I give credit where credit's due. The kid is an animal. He's a freak. So you give him the money because without him, I love watching Kyrie Irving play. He's not a prick. He's one of the guys that somehow hasn't drink the Kool-Aid that LeBron brings to the table. He's still humble. He's not a prick. He's fun to watch and that kind of stuff. So I think that for the most part, that Kyrie is a guy that if you built a team around Kyrie, as much as I love watching him play, you're not getting that title. Even with Kevin Love, you're not getting that title.
Yeah.
They made that deal during the year that got rid of Anderson Varejao. They made deals to bring in J.R. Smith and Iman Shumpert.
Yeah.
Those are pieces, man. Like during the year, they were crucial pieces. During the season, it made a difference. During the playoffs, J.R. Smith was huge.
Yes, definitely.
Iman Shumpert's defense made a difference.
Yeah.
And so down the stretch, if you're going, well, do you pay LeBron? Is he worth all that at 31? Fuck yeah, he is. Because he's still the best player on the planet.
They still ran through the East like nobody was there.
The East, and I don't know how or if it ever will recover at this point, and how it would come back to the East being as strong as the West. Because the West is just that much stronger. When you're looking at teams, barring free agency this summer, OKC, San Antonio, the Warriors again.
Yeah.
Those are three consistent teams that you look at the top, whether they're under the radar or they're fancy about it. Those are three teams that are there every year.
Yeah.
That they're right in the mix of things. That's not counting if you catch a Clipper team who's on a run or you catch a Portland team who's on a run.
Yeah.
That makes things a whole lot fucking harder. Whereas in the East, the best chance that you're looking at is, well, we can get past pretty much any, but it's a toss-up unless you got a huge matchup where it's like, oh, yeah. Unless you're looking at Cleveland. Yeah. Cleveland's the top dog where you're like, I could 1 through 7, we can take anybody.
Anywhere where LeBron's at, pretty much is going to be that
Well,
place.
when you bring the talent that they bring into Kevin Love, Kyrie Irving was already there.
Yeah.
Well,
and it's just, to be fair, it isn't just LeBron. It's what comes with LeBron.
Yeah.
You get LeBron and 2 or 3 players, you're a contender all of a sudden. They brought LeBron to Kyrie Irving and then brought Love in, and all of a sudden, okay, you had last year, you got a team that makes the finals. Albeit they're not healthy when they get there, but they got there and they made a little bit of a show. They get there this year healthy. You added 2 more pieces with Shumpert and J.R. Smith.
You're talking about money. Kevin Love gets paid this year somehow in a contract.
Somewhere.
LeBron is a free agent.
Yeah.
They both can't take max deals. They don't got the money for it.
Because
they locked up Kyrie Irving.
Do you really think Love is worth it? Do you think he thinks he's worth a max deal?
Yes.
Then he won't stay in Cleveland.
Want to bet? Dan Gilbert says otherwise. Dan Gilbert, essentially, who, if you don't know who Dan Gilbert is the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers, and he essentially told LeBron James, kiss my white ass when he left for Miami. Put it out to the whole city and the whole world on social media. He welcomed him back with open arms.
Can I add something to that?
Absolutely.
Today, I don't know if you guys heard, but LeBron had like this secret motivation all year long, a secret motivation that was eating at him, that he was like, this is why I'm going to win the finals. But it's funny because he told this to a reporter from Cleveland. Right. And the reporter, the terms were like, once we win the finals, I will tell you my motivation. So he called him out, and he's like, well, what was your motivation, LeBron, when he was on the stand?
Right.
And LeBron's like, well, I think he said something to the tone of, let's grab some cigars. And so basically, like, they talked backstage, you know, and he told him that somebody from Miami, high-ranking official, he didn't want to name any names, said, you're making a huge mistake leaving us. You know, you're going back to Cleveland. That's stupid. Like, basically calling him an idiot for leaving Miami and going back. But he didn't want to name names. And I think, you know, when we all kind of like did the checklist, it was Pat Riley. It was Pat Riley. But, you know, and that's the funny thing is, you know, same thing with Dan Gilbert. He was like giving him the middle finger. He's like, screw you, LeBron. You messed up. LeBron goes, wins a ring. And then the Heat are like, screw you, LeBron. You messed up. And then he goes back and he brings a championship to Cleveland.
Here's why he gets paid fat money. Not only for the player that he is. How many times has LeBron James been to the finals?
6 in a row.
6 in a row. You don't pay that fucking guy?
Yeah.
Who's not hurt, hasn't had any serious injuries.
Never had injury problems.
No.
Yeah.
He's taken some hits on like being sick and stuff like that during games, or the famous cramp game. But other than that, like serious injury wise, he's never had an issue.
And that's why you pay him.
You pay him.
Yeah.
You bet on the winning horse.
Yeah.
He's
and he's the guy that
for sure.
You know,
if he showed wear and tear on his knees or on his shooting elbow or anything like that, it would be one of those things where like they would kind of leverage that to get him down. But the thing is, like, I mean, I'm sure they know pre-existing injuries on his team, but it doesn't seem like there's that big of an issue with him. No. And even today, people are trying to say that, oh, well, maybe Steph Curry was more injured than he let on. And I hate that talk because it's
don't think that they asked him about that. He said no. What he said was he felt like he didn't like missing that much time of playing and practicing. That he felt like that hindered him, then hindered his game. It wasn't that he was using the injury as an excuse. He just felt like, not that he wasn't prepared, but that he felt like if he was more in a rhythm, that the struggles he had shooting down the stretch of the finals wouldn't have been so big.
Yeah.
And I have to agree with that. Now, you talk about those guys getting paid, and here's the downside. Harrison Barnes has got to get paid.
I was just going to say, that we'll switch gears to Golden State. Harrison Barnes, does he get paid somewhere, or does he take less money to stay in Golden State?
He takes less money to stay.
You believe that?
He's part of the young core. The major four in Golden State: Steph, Clay, Draymond, Harrison. Everybody else is expendable. They stole a dwindling Andre Iguodala last year and said, we'll take him. Dude turned out to be the Finals MVP.
Oh, yeah.
His defense was magnificent, but he don't got the hop and the energy that he had when he was in Philly, when he was the guy.
Yeah.
You can find other pieces to go with those four. I think if you tell Harrison Barnes, hey, man, we'll do a 2 or 3 year deal. And if you show us in 2 or 3 years that, hey, this is what we're looking for, we'll give you an even bigger deal. You know, if you're the Warriors, you're looking at those four going, I want you guys to be Warriors for life. I don't want you going anywhere else, which is extremely rare in this game, man, at this point.
Yeah.
You know, Kobe, 20 years with the Lakers is huge.
Yeah.
You know, when Tim Duncan decides to retire, it will be huge.
Yeah.
You know, so definitely Steph, for sure. I think they're going to lock him up for life as a Warrior, but you're dumb not to try and take the other three with you.
Yeah.
And they seem sensible enough to understand payday-wise that it makes more money and more sense to stick together than it does to go elsewhere. Because you could arguably say, well, Draymond Green's the James Harden in this group. He could go somewhere and be the number one guy. You're probably right. But he's also a power forward.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's not
a ball handler like James Harden was. He doesn't run the second unit. And I don't believe that Steph and Clay make Draymond Green the player that he is on the floor. Excuse me. What I think is that he has his own set of skills that he's very good at and things that he does very well. But when you put him with these guys, it elevates his game because he goes, I got to step my game up for this guy. These guys are willing to sacrifice everything. And I'm not saying that other NBA teams don't look at it that way, but you see in this young group that there's an old head feel. And what I mean by old head feel is that old school mentality that I'm willing to sacrifice my body and what I got to do, whether it's minutes, whether it's money, to stick with these guys. You look at the dynasties of the past, of the Lakers, of the Celtics. Those guys, there was only a handful of guys that changed on those teams in like a 5-year stretch.
Yeah.
You know, when you look at these other, like down the road, the team changed down the road, but you always had the core guys.
Yeah.
You know, Bird, McHale, Parrish, you know, Bill Russell. Those guys in the Celtic dynasties were all the same. Worthy, Johnson, Byron Scott, you know, those you got to keep. And I think they have that old school feel to them of willing to understand, like,
I got to roll.
If I stay here, I'm going to be right in the mix every year.
Yeah.
And that's more dollars. That your contract is great, but when you stick with the guys that you have and you're successful, other outside opportunities roll right in. And they're in a good spot to do that. They're young.
Yeah.
They have that financial stability as a lot of those guys do. Now it's Harrison's turn to get that stability. And you can play. It's not about, I got to worry about getting my next big contract. They're locked in. They're committed to your organization and to the ultimate goal. Do you think that by Luke Walton going to the Lakers, it's going to hurt their coaching staff?
Yes. I do. I do, because if I'm understanding his role correct, it's pretty big. I think we've talked a lot about it takes more. We're at a lower level, obviously, but even on our level, it takes more than one. Sometimes it takes more than two. You're talking about a major piece of that coaching staff taking a walk to go coach some. Albeit in the NBA, it's a little different than it is in the high school level. You're looking more for your next step. You're not there to be a lifetime assistant.
Right.
You obviously want your own team at some point. You know. So, but I've also read a lot of things and heard a lot from different podcasts and stuff that Kerr's staff is as deep as his team is.
Right.
So, in that sense, it's just next team up. I'll relate this to Marvin Lewis and his staff. You know, Marvin Lewis, when he started building his staff in 2002, had coordinators and coaches who have gone everywhere.
Right.
Defensive coordinators other places, head coaches other places. Bill Belichick's coaching tree. You know, Bill Parcells' coaching tree. Yep. It's never ending. You have got talent not because you found it and brought it in, but because you develop it. Well, Luke Walton got the privilege of having great players, learning how to coach great players, and build a team essentially under Kerr. Well, guess what? He's going to take his skills somewhere else. It's some time to walk out.
You can't downplay the fact that he also had Phil Jackson around.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a guy who's had some extensive background and experience with different levels of coaching.
And if I'm not mistaken, when he was hurt with the Lakers, he held a clipboard for a
little
bit.
For a while.
Yeah. So this is LA's chance to get someone on the rise, to get a hometown guy. As a
fan of LA Lakers, I'm happy. I'm a happy guy because I think. It's a young man's game. So, the evolving strategies and the fact that he has, picked the brain of these guys who are champions, I think there's positivity there. It's just getting the right pieces in LA because that's going to be hard.
Yeah. They don't have a roadblock in
now. They don't have Kobe. Now they don't have the Kobe problem, I guess.
One last question before we get into the meat and potatoes of this podcast today, the wrestling section of this. Does the 73-9 mean shit now?
You mean the 18-1?
No, it's the 73-9.
Okay, so this conversation dominated The Office today because it goes back to, again, I say the 18-1. For those of you who don't know what that is, the New England Patriots went 16-0 in the regular season, won their semifinal,
won their divisional, won their conference.
And then lost to the Giants, okay?
The David Tyree catch, for those of you who don't know.
I don't
Beautiful
care
catch, by the way.
how they lost. All I care is that they lost.
I guarantee you, there was Velcro on his helmet.
So, it's the same thing. They eclipsed a milestone, and it's great to eclipse milestones, but in my opinion, does it downplay it or take away from it? No. But they're not going to be known as the greatest team ever because they couldn't finish it. Finishing that season meant winning the title and saying we were the best team this year. I'm sorry, you can't say that now. You can say you finished with the best record in NBA history, but you weren't the best team that year. You lost to someone who was better than you at that
While
point.
I agree with that, I see it from a different angle.
Okay, what's your angle?
So, 73-9 is a huge accomplishment. And they did it on the same night of Kobe's last game.
Okay.
Right? Did Kobe's last game and his 60 points...
on 58 shots?
On 56 shots or whatever the
Still
fuck
hit
it was.
60 points, man. You couldn't do that.
Did Kobe overshadow their record winning?
Yes. Yes, because we were saying goodbye to more than
one
just
of the all-time greats.
I was going to say one of the all-time greats, and I'm not a Kobe fan.
No,
but
not at all.
I would stand here and I would say it took away a lot from it because we were saying bye to a generational player.
So not only did it take away the night that it happened, in the society that we live in the sports community, and in the world in general, it is a "what have you done for me lately?"
Yes, it is.
In the MMA world, they will tell you you're only as good as your last fight.
Yeah.
Warriors, and I reference the Warriors as they did not get the job done in Game 7.
Mm-hmm.
They are the team that had a 3-1 lead and blew it.
Yeah.
They're not the team that's 73-9 and came into the playoffs and went all the way to a historic Game 7, broke an NBA Finals record for 3, broke 3 records during the regular season. They're the team that couldn't close out a 3-1 series lead.
At home.
LeBron and the Cavaliers are the first team in NBA history to come back from 3-1 down and win. Now, here's the other side. Here's a crazy stat that I read today. The Warriors are the first team in history to come back from being down 3-1 in their conference series and then lose in the finals after having a 3-1 lead.
Yeah, it's poor. It's a bad situation because it is a record, and it's a record that probably. What are we going back to? 95 for the 73 or 72-10 Bulls?
Was it 95 or 96, 97?
I want to say it was a 96, 97.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken.
Those Bulls are the best team to ever play the game because they set the record and they finished the season as the champions. Okay, when someone says, "Well, what about the Golden State Warriors of 2016?" The first thing you're going to say is, well, did they win a championship? Mm-hmm. We're talking about the Seattle Mariners from 01, too.
Right.
The same team.
Most wins.
Most wins in MLB history.
And people forget that
they
repeatedly.
Forget it, you know? I mean, it's a second breath. I feel bad for the guys because they set so many records this year. It wasn't just the win records. So many different records. Finals records. Conference records. They had accomplished things that hadn't been accomplished. But like you said, they're going to be remembered for the team that couldn't close out the 3-1.
They set themselves up though to be the best, and that's what you expected from them. And if you come up short, you don't get that championship. That's what really matters. Yeah. Everything else is just it's just kind of icing on the cake because once you win the championship, you're like, wow, we set this record and we did the 3-pointer record on the finals and all that. But now to them it probably doesn't even matter. Yeah, at this point, they're probably like, screw that. We didn't win the finals. That pisses me off.
I didn't even see if anybody asked them about that. Did anybody ask Golden State if that was? Oh man, I'm gonna have to look some of those up.
Look those up.
I didn't even see those, but. So that's your finals in a nutshell there. I mean...
we could talk about this shit for hours.
It's nonstop.
Yeah.
There's so much
especially
content
for a guy like me who eats, sleeps, and breathes basketball. There's a lot of ways to look at it. There's a lot of angles to take. There's a lot of stats to analyze, but it is what it is. Next, moving forward for the NBA
before
season.
We get into WWE, we had our cricket challenge last week.
Did
you see that? Did
you
catch the video?
I did catch that.
Did you see what question I asked him?
I did not see that.
The final question... I couldn't put it up on our Instagram page because it was too long of a video.
Oh, I see.
The question we wound up tying with was he had to make one more question. His final question was, what year did the Bengals own the number 1 pick?
No, I'm not talking about
that.
I'm making
he missed that question. We tie. We go into sudden death. We Google a question apiece, right?
Okay.
So the question I gave him was, which guys co-hold the record for the most wins.
Who are the only 2 guys?
It was
the guys
the co-holders
to win the PGA Championship consecutive years.
Yeah, no. It was it consecutive years or multiple times?
It was consecutive years.
There was 3 guys, so he missed the question because he had one of them as Phil Mickelson, who was not. He goes deep into the bag and wanted to know what year the Celtics were formed. I got that question right.
You got it right. And he guessed?
Did you really guess?
No, I had it there. It wasn't there was some of it where I was like, oh, I'm not 100%, but it was in there. 1946.
I was going to say, I would guess in the 40s.
Yeah, 46.
I wasn't going to reference that question. I was going to reference a WWE question. I asked him who the wrestler, Patricia, I can't even remember.
Stratis or whatever it was.
Yeah, Trish Stratus.
Oh,
that was
look at his eyes! Look at his eyes!
Wow, man! You know what? I didn't even know that she had a fake name. I mean, I knew the Stratus was fake, but I didn't think that was
Trish Stratus was a completely fake name.
Yep. That whole thing. That was the cricket challenge. The video's up of him actually eating it. We have the full video up on our YouTube channel.
It's up there.
From beginning to end. It's about an 18-minute video of us asking the 5 questions and him actually eating the cricket. So check that out if you haven't seen it yet. The full video is up on our YouTube channel.
Okay, so you guys had, you had Money in the Bank last night. That was last night.
Yep.
was Raw on today? Is that what was on today?
Yes.
Today.
Monday
Now, you
Night
said
Raw.
they just switched this, right?
Okay, so here's the deal. Just kind of to preface this. Money in the Bank was last night. They have a pay-per-view every month. It just depends if, it's beginning, end of the month, whatever. So Money in the Bank was last night. They have a weekly episodic show, Monday Night Raw, as I'm sure many of our listeners know that are fans of the WWE. SmackDown, which was originally brought in on Thursdays, at one point was moved to Fridays, and then it's been moved back to Thursdays, so it's on Thursdays right now. They have made the decision, because they've chosen to take a different network contract, and they're taking it to the USA Network, who currently, and has for many, many years, carried Monday Night Raw. Because of this, they've decided to send SmackDown into a live head-to-head competition weekly with its own show.
What?
As far as ratings go on a daily
They're
basis.
creating their own competition.
Yes. So, for those of you who are fans of NXT, that's on the network. And on, I want to say Hulu? Is it still on Hulu?
It's on Hulu and on the network.
And on the network.
So is Raw and so is SmackDown.
So you can only watch NXT on either Hulu or the network. You got to pay for it to watch it. But SmackDown and Raw are both going to be live as of July 19th.
Nice.
They've also decided that they're going to go back to the brand split. So they're going to have guys that are only on Raw and only on SmackDown. And the draft will take place July 19th, the night that they go live with SmackDown.
Okay.
So that's coming up soon. Now, from a lot of the dirt sheets and stuff that I've read, they've been reaching out to a lot of guys.
Really?
Including older guys like Kurt Angle, guys like Jeff Hardy, whose contract is not up yet with TNA Impact Wrestling. They've reached out to a lot of guys to fill these rosters out on
Kurt
both
Angle's
shows.
still a name in the game?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
he's a banged up name.
Yeah, now he is.
shouldn't be wrestling, but he's wrestling still.
He's fighting essentially with no ligaments and shit in his knees. Like,
damn.
it's bad.
Oh, shit.
So they've decided to do this split, and they've already said they're gonna raid the NXT roster and bring up a lot of guys and fill this thing out as much as possible. But that's not happening yet. Okay. So to go back on a little history, the last time Gio was here, it was right before the Extreme Rules pay-per-view.
Yeah.
We were talking about what was going on and stuff like that, and we went more into a history thing than a current situation thing. So now we're gonna have him up here with our thoughts and opinions on the current product. So last night we knew what was going on.
One more question.
Yes.
Relevant championships.
The World Heavyweight title, obviously.
Intercontinental still around?
Yes.
U.S. Championship.
The U.S. Championship, they're trying.
It's had its moments.
It's coming around again. It kind of struggled a little bit once Cena was hurt, and they weren't doing the weekly thing where it didn't seem to mean as much. But they're working on it.
Tag team?
That's a solid thing. They're building that division huge right now.
It's taken about 4 years because the division
was
5
in
years
the
ago
shitter.
was horrible.
Legitimately in the shitter. Like that bad. So now,
Okay.
now they got some wheels to run with here.
Okay, sweet.
So the Intercontinental Champion, which currently is The Miz, his whole situation right now with his wife, his real life wife, is a former wrestler. She played a French character who was like snobby and a jerk and a bitch, and she's a former women's champion at one time. But they brought her back. She left wrestling, didn't want to do it anymore. She's also posed in Playboy if you want to look her up on Google. So
Gio's giving the thumbs up. I
Yeah.
think we need to check it out.
No, my wife, no. But
sorry, Grace, we're sorry.
that was just me trying to cover my nose. Sorry.
So they have him as an on-screen character right now with his wife, and it's working really well. They didn't really do anything with him for Money in the Bank just because it didn't make sense for what they were doing. The U.S. champion currently is Rusev, again. A good guy to build with. A good guy to use to go ahead and use him as an advocate. Before the advocate of him being Lana, the ravishing Russian is what they call her. In real life, they are engaged, which was a problem for WWE TV because they had them split on TV and they announced their engagement on the internet.
Oh.
So that was a problem, so they put them back together. But he's currently the champion, and he's doing some good things. The dude's on his way. He's not there yet, but he's on his way. It's an up-and-coming deal. And you asked about the tag team division. The tag team division is the hottest that it's been in a number of years, as Gio mentioned. The 4-way title match that they had last night at Money in the Bank was the current champions, which is the New Day, which consists of Xavier Woods, Big E, and Kofi Kingston, versus the Vaudevillains, who came up from NXT. They've been around since a little after WrestleMania.
Okay, that first team you mentioned, was that 3 guys? Or
Yeah, it's three guys.
Yeah,
Is it like a manager?
Reminiscent of the Freebirds.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They're interchangeable.
Okay.
Any
They're
two
all
guys
tag
can
team
fight.
champions.
They're tag team champions as a group.
Yes. Any two can defend. Any two can defend.
Oh, wow.
So them, the Vaudevillains, who have like an old school like 1930s, 1940s
Charlie
like
Chaplin.
strongman type deal going on. So that was another team, and then they had the Club, who is huge. Coming in right now, they were worried about how they're booking. They could have booked them a little differently with how they started it, and we'll get into that. But right now, they're in the mix. They're in the middle of things, which is good.
Yeah.
And that'd be Machine Gun Carl Anderson. They don't refer to him as the Machine Gun on WWE television because that's a New Japan Pro Wrestling thing. But that's
Squirt gun, Carl Anderson.
yeah. And then they have, of course, Doc Gallows or Luke Gallows.
Luke Gallows now.
So those two are right in the middle of everything, and probably the hottest tag team they got right now, next to the New Day, because the New Day are champions. I guess that's the only reason why you'd put them ahead of them. Is Enzo Amore and Big Cass. Those guys right now are the shit. And if you look up Enzo Amore,
That's what I'm gonna do right now.
you are gonna laugh your ass off when you see the pictures of Enzo Amore. This guy has a haircut that's got leopard print color into it.
He reminds me of a human chihuahua.
Kinda, yeah. Sam Roberts, you know who's out there. Sam Roberts, I listen to his wrestling podcast
Big
weekly.
fan here too.
You know, he's another one of the influences of us
What
starting
the
this
hell
podcast.
is he on?
Yeah, I told you. He made a great reference this last week that he feels that Enzo and Big Cass is a big reminiscence of a young Shawn Michaels and Diesel, when they were running as the dudes with attitudes. And to me, that's a great comparison.
Yeah.
You know, there's definitely some magic in both of them, but together they're just something different. You know, and Enzo, if you don't know, got a concussion it was at Extreme Rules, right? The Vaudevillains, Aiden English, went to throw him out of the ring, and his neck caught the middle or bottom rope, and it slammed his head straight into the mat as the rest of his body went out of the ring. Yeah. And he like legitimately went out and just hit the ground. He was out. They had to like legitimately stop everything because of it. And it was a scary thing. He was out for about 3 weeks. So that whole thing, like I said, the tag team division right now is hot. And if you don't know who Enzo and Big Cass are, then you're probably soft, and that's spelled SAWFT, soft. Then, as we said, the whole Money in the Bank concept, that match last night was a huge thing where they had Chris Jericho, Cesaro, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Dean Ambrose, and Alberto Del Rio in the match. There was originally supposed to be a 7th member, but they leaked a poster this morning, and it was supposed to be Kalisto was supposed to be the 7th guy, which I don't really understand how he fits there, but that's who was supposed to be in it. And we'll get into each match as we go here. And then John Cena and AJ Styles were a headlining match last night, and Seth Rollins returning to the ring on a regular basis as a main event guy against Roman Reigns.
So who was okay? So my understanding is this one is the one for the contract, right?
The ladder match itself, the 6 guys that were in the ladder match were who I mentioned in Cesaro, Chris Jericho, Alberto Del Rio, Dean Ambrose.
Chris Jericho still wrestles?
Yeah, he's on he does like he'll do like 6 months, a year, and then he'll go off and do his Fozzy stuff, and he'll disappear, and then he'll come back and do like a year or something.
Move still the Walls of Jericho?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Nice.
It still is.
Nice.
Yeah, he's a bad guy again.
For those of you that don't know, that's the Busting Crab.
Yeah. So yeah, that whole thing last night was pretty cool, and we'll get into those matches now. Currently, the women's division. Last night, it was a tag team match. The belt was not defended. It was Dana Brooke who was put with Charlotte because they took Ric Flair off of TV. They had her. The way to get her people to hate her was to have her turn on her dad.
Oh.
And that's what they did. And so he's no longer on TV for the time being. They have Dana Brooke, who was supposed to be with Emma, but got hurt and had to have surgery. So they just moved Dana Brooke over to Charlotte, who's the current women's champion. And they teamed together to take on Becky Lynch, who's the Irish lass kicker, as they call her, and Natty Neidhart last night. So between the last time we saw you, it's been almost exactly a month, Gio.
Yeah.
coming out of Extreme Rules and everything that we knew, and Roman still be the champion, him and AJ having some good matches and stuff, and Enzo's injury and all the things that we've seen. How have you felt about WWE's booking of the shows coming into Money in the Bank last night?
I feel like WWE is just evolving. They still do a lot of the things that they typically do, like push, Roman Reigns despite everybody kind of being sick of him. But obviously, as we get into like kind of Money in the Bank, that kind of evolved a little bit.
Right.
But other than that, I feel like bringing in all the guys from the club, from Japan, and then bringing up the NXT, tag team like Enzo and Big Cass, the Vaudevillains. And it seems like they're just putting an emphasis, like they're saying themselves, in a new generation. It is getting better. It's different because you're not seeing the same guys over and over again. And it was cool to see John Cena come back, but it wasn't like, I don't think I was super missing him. I mean, a lot of people are huge fans of him, and a lot of people don't like him, especially grown men and things like that.
The demographic that he's...
But I respect the dude as a dad. I respect the dude. I respect what he stands for and how he portrays himself. He's not my favorite wrestler by any means. But it was cool to see him back, but I think they were holding it down without him. And and then, honestly, I was more excited to see Seth Rollins come back.
Yes.
And so to see Seth Rollins come back and then immediately like get pushed the way he's being pushed, and he's supposed to be a bad guy, but they made like a documentary about him.
They did about an hour special, which if you have the network or you watch the network, it's called a 24/7 special, and it's about an hour long. And they've done it on Daniel Bryan. They've done it on the WrestleMania 31 that was in Santa Clara. They've done it on NXT Brooklyn. They only have a handful of them. And it's an hour-long thing, and it lets you behind the scenes, is what it is. And it lets you see what it's like to go through the whole process of whatever it is. If it's that event, it's behind the scenes, what it took to put it together, all the pieces that come together that make the show what it is. If it's a person, it's what they go through and how they got to where they're getting in that year or where, however long. Well, with Seth Rollins, he completely blew out his knee. So they went through and went back to when he blew out his knee. They showed his surgery. This guy cut a promo on anesthetics.
Yeah, he was high
in the hospital
out of his
bed.
mind.
Like you could clearly see, as somebody who's had surgery, this dude was on anesthetic still. Straight up said, "I'm kicking anybody's ass. I don't give a shit who's the champion." Word for word, that's what he
called
said.
Called out Roman
Reigns, and then goes,
and then knocks out,
and goes out.
Nice.
And when you watched, it wasn't Seth Rollins being a dick. It wasn't Seth Rollins saying, "I hate the fans. You people turned on me. I didn't turn on you," type of deal. It was just Seth Rollins being Seth Rollins. And so for him to come back, and you have to go, well, now, no, you're not supposed to like this guy. You're supposed to hate him. Well, why? He's like one of us. Like, he's just a guy trying to do his thing. Like, he had a dream because they talked about his kid life and all that stuff. And then suddenly people were like, nah, like, I don't know about you, but I feel like once they got past that at the first week, he did a good job of trying to spin it back, of getting people to hate him and getting people to just like him again by what he was saying and the way he spun things. So that being said, he's back, and like you said, right in the middle of things. So as we rolled into Money in the Bank, as I kind of ran down the card, we'll go from bottom to top here. They had Baron Corbin took on Dolph Ziggler again. I was glad to see that they got on the pay-per-view this time.
Yeah.
But I feel bad for Dolph. Like, I don't know. Yeah. We don't know the behind-the-scenes stuff, but this guy is a championship pedigree wrestler from Kent State who has done several great things. His character has been great. He's had it for a while. They gave him a run that didn't last very long because he got a concussion, and they took it away from him and said, like, nah, you don't get that ball back to run with.
And he's been healthy ever since.
And yeah, he hasn't had any injuries ever since. The problem I have with his current character is that he's mimicking Shawn Michaels so much that people just go, oh, he's just the guy that pretends that he's Shawn Michaels.
And where before he had the Shawn Michaels like aura, but like he didn't exactly mimic him.
He wasn't trying to embrace it.
I mean, don't get me wrong, he did the super kick and everything, but
he wasn't trying to be like, no, like, I'm still Dolph Ziggler. I just have some of these things.
He reminded me of a mixture of like physical, like Billy Gunn, mixed with Shawn Michaels, like the way that he wrestled. And a lot of people, especially like, do you remember Survivor Series? Speaking of Survivor Series,
he was the last guy.
He had one of the best Survivor Series.
He was in the traditional Survivor Series match 2 years ago that introduced Sting to the WWE.
Really?
And he was the guy that had to carry that match at the end for his team. It was an amazing finish for him to take that stretch. Since then, they haven't done shit with him. He was in the Intercontinental title ladder match at WrestleMania 31, which was good. He did okay there, but then going on, it's like they bring him up, they drop him. They bring him up, they drop him, and then now they have him working with a guy who was in NXT and Baron Corbin. I've talked about him before. He's the guy who's a former Arizona Cardinal lineman.
Yeah.
Who's doing well, and they beat this fucking feud into the ground with these two. They won't put him on the pay-per-view. They put him on the kickoff show to try and get people to watch the kickoff show, but you bury Dolph on a weekly basis. You don't let him win on regular weekly TV, and then you put him on there with Baron Corbin, and then they go, okay, well, he beat him in a hardcore match at Extreme Rules. We're going to have a traditional wrestling match. Well, that's Dolph's thing, right? He walks out and kicks him in the balls and doesn't even fight him. And he's just like, fuck him. Like, we're not fighting, you know. And I mean, some of the way that they're just doing this with him is just bad.
I think it's the PG cuffs because back in the day, like, you had two guys who could beef over some real stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And now everything is so PG that you have feuds built on nothing, really. Like, built on just, like, little kid things. And
it's like, by the way, now these two guys are fighting.
Yes, exactly. And for some reason, they're going to fight over and over and over and over again.
The way they've booked some things just hasn't made much sense. It's been good for business long term, but in the storyline perspective, Shane McMahon's match with The Undertaker was supposed to be if Taker lost, he was fired and would never wrestle again. If Shane lost, there was no way he was getting control of Monday Night Raw. He runs Monday Night Raw with his sister.
The very next night.
What was the point of issuing that if that's not what was going to happen? Then sell the match for what it is.
Because they undersold how popular he was going to be when he returned. And that's what WWE does a lot sometimes.
They had no idea the response he was going to get when he got it.
Yeah.
Shane,
He basically had a hero's welcome because people missed him, and when that's the thing about the wrestling world is if you step away and after a year or two, people will miss you. Like let's say if CM Punk came back tomorrow and he said, "Screw UFC, I want to wrestle again," it would be the biggest comeback ever, honestly. And that's the thing is when Shane came back, people were kind of already starting to wonder when is Shane going to come back. And then Shane came back.
They were tired of the
people's
content,
minds.
and they were tired of this authority storyline, which they pretty much killed at this point. My understanding is they're going to bring it back at some point with Triple H because since Shane's been on TV, Triple H has not. Yeah. So the idea is to bring them back and make them fight each other. Hopefully at SummerSlam.
That would be beautiful.
So
I would love to see Shane McMahon versus Triple H at SummerSlam just because there's always especially at SummerSlam, it's great when they mix kind of like almost like the WrestleMania type of matches into it, where you have some legends going at it, and then you have some of the newer guys competing as well. Right. But that's the thing is there needs to be a good mixture of both because if you have too much legends, I feel like people kind of like, I've seen that before. And then if you have too much new people, there's not enough recognized characters that people can really buy in.
Yeah, I agree. And so that was on the card. Baron Corbin got the win. Dolph loses again. And
they might have a match. I didn't get to watch Monday Night Raw, but they might have had a match tonight because that's usually how it goes.
Yeah, they might have.
Or at least on SmackDown.
So then there was also the women's tag team match, as I mentioned, Charlotte and Dana Brooke versus Natty and Becky Lynch. The match itself, from what I've seen, it was okay for them. I mean, the women are definitely getting time now, and that's a good thing for them. It's a great thing. But to me, women's tag team matches are not something people want to see on pay-per-view.
There's nothing that elevates that because there's no championship.
Well, not only that, but look who you had in the match. You got Dana Brooke, who people don't really know who the hell she is because she was brought in for Emma, and then they went, no, she's with Charlotte, and people went, huh?
Yeah.
And now she's in the middle of that. Okay, fine, whatever. You got Becky Lynch, who people get invested in. You got Charlotte, who people are invested in.
Yeah.
And then you got Natty, who's been around, but she's, at this point, unfortunately for her, she's just an old ring hand who's like,
she's the female Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
It really is. It's like, oh, man, really? So it's one of those things where they really have to go ahead and try and figure out something different for the women because tag team matches like that, and
they have a lot of talent right now too.
Yeah.
And
they're huge. And here's the other thing: still no Sasha Banks.
That's what I'm saying.
They're sitting here saying we're saving her to go heads up with Charlotte at SummerSlam. So, and Paige actually got a title shot tonight on Raw, from what I read.
Right on. Sure she didn't win.
No. The idea is to sell Charlotte and Sasha for SummerSlam. And they're still...
Do you think they're cooling off a lot on Paige? Because it seems like over the past couple of months, she's been off TV a lot.
I think that with her being on Total Divas and stuff, they kind of think, well, she could be on TV sometimes, but she's on Total Divas.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know who Sasha Banks is, she's also Snoop Dogg's cousin.
Yeah.
In real life.
He actually made an appearance with
WrestleMania.
her at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
That
did her
doesn't
song.
matter.
So, the women's match was, and then.
So, do they have any of the? You guys are always talking a little bit about some of the retro wrestlers. Any of the females ever make cameos?
No,
at all?
Not right now.
It seems like
the
most
idea
women
is because
just
they've
move
had
on.
so much potential with the girls who were in NXT that they brought some of them up way too quick and said this is a Divas Revolution, and it wasn't shit. And then they finally got away from saying that on TV, all kinds, and they just let them go. And all of a sudden, everybody kind of went, "Ooh, these girls can go," but they still have only scratched the surface because they're focusing on Charlotte, which is fine. She's the champion right now. And the story that they're running with makes sense. It's a good thing. They're letting Becky do some stuff, but not really on her own. They need to let her go. And when Sasha comes back and they have her and Charlotte go, you want to talk about two girls who can make the guys go, we're going to have to top that. Those are the two that you're going to have to watch.
Sweet.
So, and we're not even into having Bayley brought up yet.
Yeah, Bayley.
Because what they call the four horsewomen are Bayley, Charlotte, Sasha, and Becky.
Yeah.
So and 3 out of the 4 are on the main roster, and they haven't got to work together. Sasha and Bayley were match of the year for NXT last year.
Really?
Yeah.
They were so good that they wound up doing an Iron Man match for them.
And that was such a great match as well. It wasn't the match of the year, but it might have been close.
It was right in the hunt.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, that the women's match, I thought they should have went singular with that and let either Natty go at her again or Becky go and just do their thing.
I would have been even down to see a Fatal four-way for the championship because, I mean, most people aren't fan of Fatal four-ways, but...
the problem with that, though, is Dana Brooke doesn't fit in to that.
And that's where they messed up by bringing her in.
Yeah, like she's with her.
If you had somebody else come in and then you had her just play her manager role, that still works. And, you just don't have her in the match.
Right.
But the thing is, they wanted to do it, I think, more to probably get her some reps.
Yes.
And that's the thing is, like, it could go downhill real quick, because people will just not get invested into a match like that. There's nothing at stake. And to be honest with you, like, nobody knows who she is at the moment. So that's where they're going to have the uphill climb on that. And, I mean, it wouldn't hurt to, just have her be like a really, like a bitch, like help, Charlotte cheat and just be that one person that always has to help her out a little bit just so she can get that win. Because then she'll start building her character a little bit, maybe, and she's like a natural heel. I don't think she'll ever be a baby face. Like, I think she's always going to be a natural heel. Right. She didn't want to be a wrestler growing up. She was a bodybuilder, and she just
if you look at her thing when she poses, she flexes her arms.
Yeah,
she's got huge arms.
Oh yeah,
and you're talking about Sasha.
No, we're talking about Dana Brooke.
Dana Brooke, yeah, and to be honest with you, I think a lot of people don't tend to gravitate to those kind of people right off the bat. Like Trish Stratus was like a former bodybuilder, and then she kind of got it and she went with it, and it's just about how long it's going to take Dana to get it and go along with it. But I could see her being in the WWE for a long time, but she's not going to be a face. I think she's going to be a heel, and one of the better heels at that.
Although the match was higher up on the card, it was on the lower end, I feel like, compared to some of these other matches, was Apollo Crews and Sheamus. That one, they just kind of went, hey, these guys don't like each other now because of a backstage segment. And Apollo Crews got the win. He got a quick roll-up, kind of shocked Sheamus. I think it's a good rub for Apollo Crews. Sheamus isn't really doing anything right now, which sucks because they brought him back as this monster, and then they put him with the League of Nations, and then they separated the League of Nations and went, guess what? We don't got anything for you.
I think they don't get the reaction they want from the people immediately for Sheamus, and it's been a couple years. But I think if they just let it slow build with the character that he has and let him get some like crucial wins over like some of the top guys.
Well, they made him the champion
could be a big heel
with Roman, and it was great for him.
I would much rather see him be the champion with Roman chasing than to see Roman the champion. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And as soon as Roman became the champion, I think it was one of those things where they kind of forgot about it.
They went, well, you've served your purpose.
Yeah. You've held the belt long enough. Thank you. Here you go, Roman.
Yeah.
They had a bad habit of doing that in the late '90s with some of those guys.
Yeah.
You know, and that their writers got pretty crappy for a little bit there.
Yeah.
Which is when I stopped watching these. They ran their course with storylines instead of changing them. You know.
I think it's all about the money, and you know, that's the thing is, if the main guy is not drawing, whether it's like a main bad guy who people want to see his ass get kicked, or a main good guy who people are like, yes, I just want to see this guy.
Yeah.
Like WWE panics, they put the panic button because there's been times where they've been close to closing doors, especially in the 90s.
Really?
Maybe not so much now, but especially in the 90s. And if it wasn't for Stone Cold Steve Austin in the Attitude Era,
Yeah. Oh man, that's he saved
God
it.
knows where they'd
Yeah.
be. Let's put it this way: Stone Cold was an employee of WCW. He got fired over the phone. Went to ECW, remade his character. Went to WWF. They discovered that he can cut promos, and the rest is history. Like WWF became WWE, and now they're a corporate monster. They're now
Publicly traded company.
now they build their own competition, you know.
Yeah.
And NXT, it has been competition for their main
It's
roster.
its own
been
brand.
awesome.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've had several conversations about how we felt like some of those specials have been better than the pay-per-views that are within a day or two of the others. Following the card, the four-way tag team match. The Vaudevillains, the New Day, Enzo and Big Cass, and
The Club.
The Club, yes, thank you. How could I forget the Club? For the tag titles. Spoiler alert, the New Day retained the tag titles. At this point, I don't feel like New Day needs the straps anymore.
Were you able to watch the whole match?
No, I got to see like intermittent pieces of it and then the finish.
There was moments that it was a really good match, but it was a botch fest.
Really?
There was some ugly spots.
Okay, no, so
Ugly
check this
spots.
out. I saw online, I read an article that said that people thought that Doc Gallows botched a finish with the official. But
It looked
but
botched to
from
me.
when you watch an angle, somebody had a different angle.
Yeah.
And when you look at it, he was actually correct. Because
just-
the guy wasn't pinned all the way down.
Exactly.
And, so,
And the funny thing, dude, is like it's funny that you bring that up because in my mind I was like, wow, you know, they're still getting adjusted to that WWE style of wrestling where they do things a certain way. And in Japan and in the indies, it's more like, hey, I can do this move and this move and this move. Let's just do it.
Yeah.
And where in WWE, it's like they have like this format.
they
It's
have
like,
what they call the WWE style.
It's basically like, let's say if you're writing an essay and they're like, this is in the tone you're going to write this essay. This is going to have the beginning right here, the middle right here, and the ending right here. And it's going to go this way more or less. Just fill in the gaps, you know? And so I thought they messed up because of that. I was like, oh my God, they're still getting used to it. And on top of that, it wasn't even so much them, like... Enzo had like a really bad botch that just completely took me out of the moment. There were him and Kofi were doing some chain wrestling and it looked really well, especially because I didn't expect that from Enzo. And then out of nowhere, I think I forgot exactly what he was trying to do, but Kofi was gonna go for a kick and it just looked super awkward. Like I don't know if it was supposed to connect or not connect. But basically, once it didn't connect, Kofi kind of looked around and just started like kind of kicking him on the floor. Yeah, exactly. And it looked bad. And there was I want to say there was one or two more things that I just didn't look right because it was like in the words of Stone Cold Steve Austin, a clusterfuck.
Yeah.
They didn't know whether to shit or wind their watches in certain certain spots. And it's only because there's so much moving parts. You have 4 tag teams wrestling for the tag team champion. It's gonna be convoluted a little bit, but for the most part. It was entertaining, but I was kind of disappointed, man. I really was, actually.
I really feel like the New Day doesn't need the titles at this point.
At this point, they really don't.
They're over enough, and they're pushing them more towards the babyface side at this point, where they were really trying to get people to hate them.
They are babyfaces.
They are.
They
They are good guys,
Yes.
But I feel like they were pushing them to be hated, and the fans were like, we like these guys.
them.
These guys are funny. They connect with us, and I think finally we're starting to see that side of how things are.
And the thing is, it is starting to get a little old for them to be champions. I think just because they're not, they're on their own level already. And so it'll be nice to see other people kind of trying to rise to that, and they say the title doesn't make the person makes the title. They've definitely made the titles, don't get me wrong. It's just, it would be nice to see like some of these emerging tag teams like the Club. I would love to see the Club booked like the way they were being booked in Japan, which is they were a big dude who can, crush you and a small dude who could, get you like that.
Well, I think like that was the original idea when you watched them come in and beat the shit out of the Usos and beat the shit out of these guys. It was like, these guys are legit. They come from here and now they're here. Like,
do you feel like it was more done in a way to elevate the Usos though? Because that's what kind of I got from that.
No, I think that the Usos were an established name, so for them to go after the Usos, it gave credibility
It was
to the
supposed
club.
to be the rub for the club.
Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, there you
Yep.
go. Yeah, the Bullet Club. And the great thing about the club is that, I mean, you believe them as badass guys.
As they are.
But the thing is, in
They
the
look
PG
like it.
world, it's kind of hard for them to be like, you know, suck it
Yeah,
and
and
all
all
this
that stuff.
different mannerisms that they would do in Japan, which is literally, that's what they would do. Is just
They
how
did the
everybody
too
suck
sweet.
it.
They did the suck it.
Yeah.
Like that's.
And they were
ridiculous.
called the Bullet Club, and one guy was called Machine Gun.
Yes.
You know, so it was like it was one of those things where like adult males, you're like, yeah, man, I wish
Yeah.
WWE had that. And now that they have it, I almost feel like they're just trying to cheapen it a little bit by letting them lose too much. And I
Yeah.
just don't think that's
I feel
right.
like they should have been booked stronger.
They should be champions already.
Like I'm not
they
saying
should
that
be
like
champions already.
they need to win every match, but they need to be beating the shit out of people into disqualification. So people look at those guys and go, "Man, I don't want my favorite guys to fuck with
Exactly.
those guys."
Yeah.
You know, and if they're not doing that right now. Although, a couple side notes: did you notice their gear last night?
The finally they have like the logo and stuff like that.
The logo that they have
Yeah.
is like the gas mask logo, right?
Yeah, with some katanas.
Yeah.
And like a Japanese.
Last night they
kamikaze.
had a Japanese headband that was the Rising Sun headband, which was like an homage to New
Yeah.
Japan. If you look, they also had stuff in Japanese writing on their gear.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. And then I don't know if it was AJ's logo or if it was Doc's logo, but one of them in each section of the gas mask from the side to the middle to the end was each person's initials. So it said LG, AJ, and KA, which is Luke Gallows, AJ Styles, and Carl Anderson. So that was pretty cool from that standpoint.
Yeah, definitely.
So that, I mean, I think that they need to do some stronger stuff with them for sure. As we move up a little bit, the match that wasn't for a title or a contract was John Cena and AJ Styles. And that match, AJ Styles delivers again.
I can honestly say, I love John Cena and he has a good match with everybody, but this is one of those times where like I feel like he just let AJ do his thing, and he was like, I'm gonna work with you, I'm gonna keep up with you, but this is your moment to shine. And I mean, I don't really like the way AJ won.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's good that AJ won. You know
Well,
what I mean?
at being a bad guy, there had to be something dirty about the win, or else people were going to cheer AJ.
Yeah.
So for him he signed a deal to say, oh, nobody's going to interfere. The referee gets knocked down. The club comes down. They beat the shit out of Cena. AJ gets the win. That's the way they did it. So people would boo for them interfering. Instead of him just beating John clean and them going, oh, you beat John Cena. Like, no, you don't want that when he's the bad guy. And one of the things in his gear is he went back like he used to in the Bullet Club, where he had the P1 logo on one side and the Bullet Club logo on the other.
And
this
black
time
and
it
white.
just in black and white it just
Black
said
and
the
white.
club.
Yeah.
So
Because he was wearing the blue. He was wearing like his blue,
The
his
blue
baby,
black,
his
yeah.
baby face blue, I would say.
Yeah.
But I love that he's going back to that kind of like New Japan look,
Yeah,
because
for sure.
that's what people want. They don't. I mean, it's cool if they come into the WWE and play ball, but for the most part, we know what we want from them, and
Yeah.
that's why like right now, people speaking of the club are salivating to see when Finn's gonna come up,
Yeah.
because he's another key component,
Well,
and he's been throwing up the two sweets a lot, and
he's
all
a
that
big
good stuff.
advocate of getting those guys over,
Yeah.
to WWE, and not only that, but I think WWE is trying to swerve the whole universe, WWE universe, because everybody's expecting him to be there.
Oh yeah,
Everybody's just waiting and chomping at the bit, and they're gonna go batshit crazy when he gets there.
yeah.
But what they're trying to do is if we'll do some fantasy booking here for a second.
Yeah.
If it's me and I'm running the show, and how do you bring Finn in? You find out that AJ's not the one that's been calling the shots all along.
That's what I would want to do.
That you find out that there's somebody else that's the boss in the club. And that when they turn around and they say something about it, they reference it as somebody else. Somebody else. And you let that build for 2 or 3 weeks. Because everybody wants it to be Finn.
Yeah.
So they're going to anticipate, it's going to be him, it's going to be him. And you save it. And then at the pay-per-view, that's when you have him come back.
Yeah.
Or come up, I should say. Not come back, but come up and be revealed as the guy who's been running the club all along, who's the guy that brought them over, that, he's the guy that got them into where they were, that he's the one calling the shots on attacking people, all this stuff.
And then you can bring AJ back into babyface mode because you can have them turn on him.
AJ's more of a babyface than he is a bad guy in general. People generally tend to like him, even as a bad guy now. People are like, no, like we like AJ. So it's one of those things where it gives you an opportunity to bring Finn up with his friends, which has always been something they've talked about. Then it also gives you a chance to build in a feud within the club. Of AJ and
Finn. I see multiple feuds. I see the club with Finn turning on AJ, and then I also see the club
with AJ turning on,
or even not without AJ, just the club turning on Finn, and then you have two baby faces that come out of that situation in your heel tag team.
Absolutely,
and I think that would work beautifully.
Because to be fair, Finn's the guy that's holding down NXT. They got some great names. Shinsuke Nakamura is fucking ridiculous.
Samoa
Joe's the current NXT champion.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know, after the last special when Joe beat Finn in the cage, after the show went off the air, somebody posted a video online and it was the fans chanting at Finn, "We'll see you Monday." Yeah. But it hasn't happened. No. That was 2 weeks ago and it still hasn't happened. Our guess, in my opinion, is that like it's going to be during the brand split.
And I think that's appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why not? Let's bring in a lot of talent.
So as we get in here, the Money in the Bank ladder match, as we talked about, it's always one of those type of matches where there's lots of spots, there's lots of stuff going on. So the winner was who everybody was hoping, but nobody believed was going to be the guy to win, and that was Dean Ambrose. Everybody wanted Dean Ambrose to win. He's been a top caliber competitor to be at the main event. He's been the guy that everybody went, no, we like this guy, and his character is a lunatic, a crazy guy. And he's done it well. Yeah. He's funny. He's serious. He makes you go believe some stuff, And he had Brock at WrestleMania, and the match, you could clearly see the match was cut short, and they were really kind of handcuffed because it was supposed to be a no DQ, anything goes thing, and it didn't really go as planned. So then he went into Extreme Rules with the Ambrose's Asylum match with Jericho, which turned out to be a pretty solid match.
And I got to give credit to him as well when he faced off with Triple H at Roadblock, because that was just a really good overall match. I mean, Triple H obviously is a ring general and a veteran, but honestly, he kept up with him through each of the segments. And the thing is, I agree with you. His match with Brock probably was cut short.
Yeah.
And it was great to see him. Now they're giving him a little bit more of the limelight. It's been one of those organic builds that they wanted from Roman Reigns, and they're not getting it from Roman, but they've been getting it from this guy, and it's never been about turning him heel for a little bit, like, how they done with Seth Rollins, they turned him heel, or even with Roman Reigns, how they just been pushing him. It's just been one of those things where he's kind of like gone in and out of the main event, and it's just worked for him, and people like him because he's like a regular guy,
he's a dude,
honestly, but he's crazy. He's a lunatic fringe, and he deserves it. I think I honestly was hoping that he would win it, and I'm glad he got it, because honestly, that's probably I would say from the most fans, I would say like it's just kind of a step in the right direction. You're like, hey, we don't always have to feel like we're just gonna get force fed something that we don't want.
Right. And with him winning, out of everybody that was in that match, there was a lot of people that expected other guys to take that briefcase. There was a lot of talk of Alberto Del Rio getting it for a second time.
And I honestly thought that was going to happen.
I was really hoping it wasn't going to happen.
Just because of the fact that he's known as a good hand. And I feel like they would feel more comfortable giving it to him and then getting some of that, Hispanic, Latino, Mexican audience.
They're looking for the next Hispanic
That's probably
superstar.
Why they wanted Kalisto in that match as well. And to be honest with you, like, I don't think it's necessary to have him in the main event. Like, he's cool and everything, but he doesn't really need a title to be a good wrestler, cool wrestler, have that aura around him. And to be honest with you, most people boo him anyways all the time, and as it goes right now. The cool thing that they did, I think, is have Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, continue their rivalry.
They need to,
because it does not get old. Like seeing
they
them
need to do that on its own. They keep teasing it. They keep putting them in the same matches, keeping them around each other. They need to make that happen.
They had them as tag team partners once, and even that was exciting because I was like, oh wow,
they don't fucking like each other.
To see what's gonna
and that's an organic, hatred that they have
built
each other
in from an indie thing.
Oh yeah,
that was way
and
before
they carried it into NXT when they came in, and then that's transferred to the main roster, and it's just been the best rivalry I think there's been in sports entertainment / wrestling. That you've seen in a while. Yeah, definitely.
So that leads us into the main event, which was Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns. They put on a hell of a match.
The match was dope.
I mean, that was the one match that I watched from beginning to end.
It was an awesome match.
Phenomenal. The only nick that I had as a problem was when Roman goes for the spear into
And
the pedigree,
it should have
he
been
misses
over.
the arm. He catches the first one, but the way that Roman throws the spear, he puts one arm down and one arm up to catch the body.
You're right. He did do that.
He should have thrown the second arm up like I'm giving everything I have to tackle the shit out of this guy.
Yeah.
And instead he put his arm down.
It looked like he went for the
Yeah.
hook himself. But the thing is, I think it was done well enough to where like when he hit it, it should have been over.
Yeah.
Because it was a clean finish anyways. It really was. There was no cheating involved. And except for when Roman knocked Seth into the referee.
Yeah.
And then after that, I mean, it all kind of, came to a clean finish.
Yeah.
And then, obviously Seth
Then
Rollins is holding it up.
Seth Rollins comes all the way back from a blown out knee from November.
And the fans were loving
The
it.
fans were like, oh, they're cheering him, going batshit crazy.
For the bad guy.
And yeah, for a guy that's supposed to be the bad guy. And then the music hits. And it's Dean Ambrose who walks out with his Money in the Bank briefcase that he won earlier in the night and tells the referee, I'm cashing in. And goes straight at Rollins and drops him with his finisher, which is known as Dirty Deeds, which is a front-face double-arm DDT.
And takes the belt.
And takes the belt.
Yep.
Dean Ambrose walked out of Money in the Bank as the WWE champion.
And let me just put it into perspective. These guys, when they came into the main roster, as they call it, they were in a group called The Shield.
Yes.
And in one night, everybody in The Shield held the WWE championship.
Oh, wow.
And that's awesome. I mean, because I think they're one of the best groups to have ever been formed.
Yes.
They just complemented each other so well. But I think the way that it was booked last night and the person who left with the title, that was the way it should have gone. And it was like one of those things that reaffirmed me, like I could still be a wrestling fan and not feel like they're just going to always try to just like insult my intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of those things where like, yes, it could have been kind of obvious to a lot of people, but it was so obvious that we didn't think it would really happen. You know what I mean? Because it kind of seems almost far-fetched that our guy is going to win that night. He got the Money in the Bank and he's going to cash it in that night. When they played his music, there was like a good delay of when he came out, and that was like kind of like, wait, what are they doing?
What are they doing?
Are
It
they
was
just
like,
trying
wait
to
a minute.
fake it
like,
out?
Yeah.
It's supposed to be over. What are you
I
guys
thought,
doing?
and this is, I hope that, I would imagine a lot of people felt the same way. When his music hit, I thought he was only walking out on the stage and that he was going to hold up the briefcase, kind of showing like, your ass belongs to me whenever I want it, kind of a thing. And that's not what happened. He walked all the way down there and was like, I'm taking it
I'm
now.
gonna have to look that up now. That probably looks awesome.
It's
to
good.
It was awesome.
It's definitely good.
And then, honestly, he almost looked like he was in disbelief himself because he's like, wait, they're going to give me the belt?
Yeah.
He picks up the belt. He's like, what the? I got the belt now? Like, I have to
From what
carry
I've
this
seen-
thing with me?
Yeah, like from him winning last night and from what I saw on Raw tonight, from him winning the title, he stepped up this level of intensity. Like, I'm the fucking man now. And now you guys are going to see a whole nother side of
If
it.
you would have seen this guy a couple years ago, he did some, they call them dark matches for WWE. You would never have thought that he would be a WWE champion. He
You'd
looked
be like,
like
"Fuck
such
that."
a nerd and such a dweeb. But he's completely rebuilt himself, changed his character. Even in NXT, FCW,
Yeah.
like his Dean Ambrose character was just so cool.
Yeah.
And the first time I saw him, it was just a picture of him doing like this hand movement,
Yeah.
kind of with his hair hanging down in his face, and I was like, man, that guy looks interesting. And I think he's kind of exceeded all my expectations because I thought he was going to be cool. He's way beyond cool. I think he's going to be a mainstay there for a while,
Right
and
there at the
hopefully in the
top.
title scene. I hope they don't just do that.
I hope it's not a one-off
that give
thing.
and go.
As of tonight, in case
come
you haven't
on.
watched Raw, they announced tonight they had Roman fight Seth in the main event, and the winner was supposed to fight Dean at Battleground, which is the next pay-per-view that'll be coming up on the WWE Network. They lost in a double countout. So they both missed the count of 10. People are booing the shit out of the finish, and then they get in the ring, and Dean gets in the ring and goes, nope, screw this. And Shane comes out. And he's about, you know what he's going to say.
Restart the match.
Well, Dean goes, nope, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. I'll fight both of them in the same night.
Oh,
So they announced the triple threat match for Battleground between the three of
But
them.
in a way,
which I think it should have been saved for SummerSlam.
that you're right, and that's what I thought they were going with it. And I mean, but in a way, just kind of getting back to the triple threat, it kind of bodes better for Dean, I think, because I mean, there's two things: either it's going to be easier for him to lose it, and they're going to use that as an excuse, or it's easier for him to retain it because he doesn't have to, necessarily he could pin two guys. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, but they should have saved it for SummerSlam. This is the Shield,
And Shane made a point to say that. He was like, these are three guys that were formerly in the Shield that will be competing against each other. I don't know if they're just feeling like they need to have more buys for Battleground and that SummerSlam.
Well, they have that
itself.
network, and if they don't keep the network subscriptions over 1 million, they're losing money. They're losing money,
Yeah.
and so to them, it's all about the instant gratification. Like AJ Styles versus John Cena, that's a WrestleMania match.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And they even booked it that way. They even said so themselves. This is a WrestleMania caliber match. You know, that's what John Cena said. And they had it, but I mean, I think they're just wanting people to watch, and they have enough talent where I think if they switch up the tables, the cards, and they move the right people around, they have entertaining shows year round, like in the Attitude Era, because you care about the people, and that's what matters. If you care about them, it doesn't matter how good of a wrestler they are, you're gonna watch.
Right.
Sweet.
Well, as we wind down here, we went a little longer than what we normally do.
We covered a lot.
But there was a lot to go over.
Yeah,
And before we started podcast tonight, we had a conversation with Gio. It's a lot to cram in a month's worth of business in an hour 15, whatever we normally do. So we're gonna have him back more regularly.
Yeah, definitely.
So that way we can cover more and be more thorough about certain things. Once again, if you're looking to find us, if you're a newer listener, you can find us on Podbean, on our Instagram page at totally_unprofessional on Instagram. You can also find us on our YouTube channel at Totally Unprofessional Podcast. If you're on Twitter, you can find Gio. Where can they find you on Twitter, Gio?
Well, right now you can find me at SWWGio.
Okay.
GIO.
There you go. So if you got any wrestling questions or you got your 2 cents on what you want to say, you can drop a comment on our Instagram page or on the YouTube channel or tweet Gio. Like I said, he'll be here more regularly, so we'll make sure that we go ahead and talk about some of that stuff if you guys got some stuff you guys want to talk about. For Friday, we talked about we would like to take some questions.
Yeah.
If there's topics you want to hear us discuss or debate, or if you want to hear us cover some sports stuff that maybe we don't normally cover, or hey, we want to dive deeper into this subject, what do you guys think? It doesn't just have to be about sports. It can be about whatever you guys feel you want to hear us talk about. Feel free to, like we said, leave comments on the Instagram page, leave comments on the YouTube channel.
Even
They're both
Podbean's
there.
got a section.
Podbean has a channel or a comment section right there. So please do, because hopefully by Friday we'll have some good questions and we can discuss those. We'll give you a shout out on whoever sent us the question that we're using. We'll go ahead and shout you guys out on the podcast. So
even if you don't like us, you want to just tell us to shut the hell up.
yeah,
that works too.
We'll make sure we let people know you're a dick on the podcast. All right, so this has been another round of wrestling talk with Gio, and this is the Monday edition, and we've been totally unprofessional.